Norwich City suffered the nightmare before Christmas. Let's hope the new year brings some more joy. Delighted to be joined by Pete and Justin from the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes Watford podcast. Guys, to start, it feels like you got that positive result against us, and you've kicked on under Bilic. So I just want to get your assessment on what it's been like since that game.
Well, I think it's been all right. I think we've done okay. Well, yeah, I mean, it's what was I expecting? Where were we now? Third in the league. That's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. The football's improved under Bilic, I would say. We still, need to strengthen our squad. That goes without saying. So January is going to be interesting. The window's going to be interesting. Going to be keen to see who comes in, who goes out, who stays. But yeah, no, I think it's been all right. It's been a lot more enjoyable this season than last season. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, Bilic took a little time to get himself under the table, his feet under the table. Sorry, and your game was like the fourth game, and now we'd lost a couple of games. One at Blackpool, which was pretty horrendous. Actually, it really was a poor performance. So there was a need for a reaction. But since then, what's happened? He's put square pegs in square holes. Whereas Rob Edwards, now Luton Town manager, go figure. He was always trying to put players from the wrong side, literally a left wing back into right wing back, and it was always kind of lopsided. The thing you get with Bilic is just an awful lot of common sense, and you see him learning about what he's got and making iterative improvements as he's gone. And instead of drawing games, we will win or we will lose them. And that sounds a bit daft, but we drew half of the games under Edwards. We've drawn 2 under Bilic. That's it. So we get 3 points rather than 1.
Yeah, it seems like you've been doing quite well. 5 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats since that Norwich game, which on paper that looks, fairly good in terms of promotion form. So I suppose what's the reception been like for Bilic? Watford renowned for sacking managers. How long is he going to last? Do you think he's going to last till the end of the season? And what's his football been like? Has it been drastically different to what you've had before?
End of the month, you say? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's normally a genuine question.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, it's going to have to take something major for us to get rid of him. I'd have thought he'll still be here at the end of the season. I think he's turned it around. We can manage games now. We can see games out. We can come back from being behind, which is something that we kind of struggled with a bit. Definitely last season, a little bit with under Edwards. I know he did it under Middlesbrough, but yeah, I think he's put some bite into the team. I don't know about style of play. I don't see it being radically different. What do you think, Peter? You're more tactically aware.
Well, it's a completely different formation because Rob Edwards played a 3-4-1-2. That was what he'd done at Forest Green, whereas Bilic has come in and looked at what he's got and said, "Oh, right, no, we haven't got that." So he went to 4-2-3-1, which frees up Sarr to play on the right side, because trying to fit Sarr into a 3-5-2 effectively is an impossible job, because he's not going to run that way. He will run that way reluctantly, but he isn't going to get back again. So he's kind of started putting the square pegs in square holes is really, really where it comes in. How well have we played? Probably not. We're not playing teams off the park, Luton Town notwithstanding. Just enjoy that moment for everybody, who we beat 4-0. But in fairness, they took a long time to break down. We didn't score our second goal and our first goal until 2.5 minutes. It was a real war of attrition. but enough of that. You can batter Ipswich in a minute. Don't worry. What we've seen with him is a bit of grit, a bit of determination, and probably no better exemplified than we were playing away at Wigan. And it was 0-0, and it was a dreadful bloody game. And he made 2 substitutes, and a player who we'd signed basically in the previous January window came on, called Samuel Kalu, who we all laugh about because he's supposed to be 24. Well, if he's 24, I'm 17, right? But fine. But he was kind of a bit ridiculed. He came on, made this little jinking run to get into the box. He obviously, though we were hoping for a foul, it didn't. It went out for a corner. He got injured but got taken off. But Bilic had told him, don't go in and cross. they're massive. They're clearing it away, and we're never getting that. Go in there, try and drive in from the resultant free kick, corner, which was taken by young Aspria, who's an 18-year-old Colombian, who's a tremendous little player. In 2 or 3 years he'll be brilliant. And we score the winner, and that's in literally like the final knockings of the game. That is not something we had either the organisation or the determination to get previously. Let alone the fact that we've kept 6 clean sheets out of the last 8. And that is something you can build on, even if it is sometimes a little bit iffy going forward.
Yeah, sort of moving forward from the defence to the attack. Pedro made his comeback against us sort of in that mid-October game, wasn't it? You won 2-1. 4 goals in his last 4 games in terms of where we're recording this at the moment, just for Christmas. So seems like he's maybe hit the goal trail as well. Is that a big plus for Watford? Because I think at this level he's probably arguably too good.
Yeah, it is good because but he's a great player, and at the beginning of the season, Peter and I went on a Newcastle podcast twice, congratulating them on signing such a young talent, and we were so sad to see him go. So advanced did we think the talks were, and I think Newcastle thought that he was joining them. So we are so grateful to have him. He's really come into his own this season. He's a delight to watch. Some of the little mistakes that he's had previously seem to be ironed out. He scored a tremendous header the other day away at Huddersfield. He is a really, really good player. And I think he is, if any players are going to go in the January window, please not João Pedro, please not him. Sarr can go, but Pedro, no. We want to keep him because he is kind of our, star player, if you like. He is the headliner at Vicarage Road, I think.
Yeah, just sort of, yeah.
No, absolutely. He's, if you've ever played Sunday League football, he's the guy you say, give him the ball. He can play a bit because that's what he can do. And he's still incredibly young. I will be astonished if he is not in the Brazilian side for 2026 because he is that good. And I mean, you guys know, you've seen Buendia, you've seen Maddison, you've seen certain players who come in who've got that extra something and have then kind of, potentially pushed on. Maddison, you could argue, whether he's at the club he should be even now. But João Pedro is undoubtedly that. Yes, he's absolutely too good for the Championship. It's ridiculous that we've got him. And he is, to use a phrase you used earlier on, he is sometimes like a cheat code. So if we're organised at the back, as we are now a little bit, then we've got a chance of always unlocking him. The first game back after the World Cup break was at home to Hull City. And our problem has been, and this is what your hope's going to be, I would imagine, is when we kicked off that game, we had 4 of 6 midfielders injured after that month break that you get all the injuries cleared from. And within 10 minutes, the 5th of the 6 midfielders got injured, and he dropped João Pedro into midfield because even at 20 or 21, whichever it is now, he is big enough and bold enough to be able to kind of really control it in that area. The problem was Hull didn't really get a sniff, but we didn't create enough going forward. He's that catalyst for us and are definitely our kind of talisman now.
Yeah, I just want to turn your guys' thoughts ahead to the second half of the season. You currently, as of time recording, you sit 3rd in the league. I probably imagine you'll be in the playoffs by the time you come to Carrow Road. So what's the expectation now, second half of the season? Is it going to be trying to push for the automatics or maybe a playoff position? You'd be happy with that, sort of contending a trip to Wembley potentially, or is it maybe dictated by what happens in January and who you maybe keep hold of and who you potentially purchase in that window? I
think that's it. I definitely think it's who stays and who comes in. But the way we're playing at the moment and the feeling that I get with the sort of the momentum of how we're playing at the moment, there's a feeling of a top 6 side about us currently. And if we can keep that up, then there's no reason why we can't at least push for promotion. I'm not a massive fan of the playoffs. I've got to say it's a bit of a lottery once you get into the playoffs. We've had both success and failure at playoff stages previously. It would be nice to go up automatically, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's see how we get on during the next couple of months, and then maybe we can reassess in sort of March time.
I think we're probably where you are. I think we are relatively speaking, comparable clubs, in as much as for either of us, as per the last time we were down, you want to have first and second. That's where you would want to be. And others will find that potentially arrogant. Others will just say, well, look, it means we've been in the Premiership for a little while. Yes, we've kind of had a kind of a yo-yo thing going on, but it means we've got a cost base that means we need to be earning the money that we get from the Premiership. Now, nothing that I've just said says anything about enjoying your football. I far more enjoy Championship football than I do Premiership. Nobody likes going to Manchester twice a season and getting a kick in. Fortunately, Man United are there now, and they're now shite, so it's now down to once. But what the hell? But it really is about, that's where we've sort of got to be. So they've made the change, as Watford do. Watford make a change every other week, we know. But we brought Bilic in, and the determination was that they haven't done it just so he can kind of be, in and around 6th and 7th. It's no, go after it. So we've got to have a go at that, most definitely. Justin mentioned there, if Sarr goes because of the World Cup, that's not a major problem. His contract expires not this summer, but the following summer, which means he gets to this summer and his agent says, hang on, you could be worth nothing in 12 months' time. So I imagine he will probably go on the back of 20 minutes of reasonable play against World Cup. That seems to be that tends to be all the Premiership scouts seem to bother with these days. So if he goes and we have a little bit of sensible, even Championship level recruitment, then fine. It is going to mean that if we did get up into second, I don't know if Sheffield United have just pulled away and we're not going to be able to get to them. Burnley certainly seem to have, but we shall see. Every team tends to go on a wobbly run at some point, so we've got to try to go there. So yes, we will take the playoffs, but like yourselves, we think we should be in one of those two main slots. That's what we've got to aim for.
Yeah, going to take you guys back to the reverse game in October. I think remember speaking to you guys before that, and I think Justin, you were particularly negative, expecting Norwich to go and hammer us. You guys quite comfortably at Vicarage Road. Ended up not being the case. You guys got the 2-1 victory that night. So, what did you make of Norwich that evening? But I suppose more pertinently, what have you made of Norwich, or have you had a chance to see us, and what your thoughts from afar as someone who's not in the camp?
Well, I'm trying to remember now why I would have been so negative at the time. We probably only had Village for a month at that point, hadn't we, Peter? I'm trying to think.
It was his fourth game. Yeah, it
was his fourth game. So, we were probably on a win-lose.
We had just he came in. We beat Stoke 4-0. Stoke were rubbish. They were absolutely awful. We then lost that game against Swansea at home. Where they just came and did a job on us, and we weren't there. But the game immediately before you guys, we'd lost 3-1 at Blackpool, and it was the worst performance you've ever seen.
Yeah, and to be fair, after that, we lost 3-0 away to Millwall. So that could have been it. We haven't been on the receiving end of that kind of result recently. But to turn back to Norwich, I remember that game as being fairly tight. I don't remember it being a particularly strong game for Watford. I haven't really been following Norwich apart from seeing what was going on with your manager. I've been reading a lot about that on Monday about Dean Smith. So I kind of was brought up to speed with what was going on over the weekend. I've got no reason to believe that I'm going to be quite as negative in my assessment of how we're going to get on when we get to that this time round. But yeah, I don't remember that being a particularly. I think I was sat next to you that game, wasn't I, Pete? I'm trying to remember. Was it a Friday night or Saturday night? I can't remember. Was that the Saturday night?
It was the Saturday night one. We were moaning an awful lot about that, as opposed to moaning about other things.
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, you started off the season like a house on fire. Was it 4 straight wins, something like that? You were
6 straight wins.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, all right, that's what's going to happen. We're all going to be chasing Norwich again. Insert brackets here. And then it seemed to just kind of go off the boil. And that game against us, I think you ended up with another kind of, because we kind of watched that on, and you were getting a couple of other defeats in the next kind of 5 games, 2 or 3 defeats. So it suddenly went on a bit of a strange run. And I don't know. I mean, I always, you always think about certain players when you associate them to clubs. And obviously, Pookie, and we discussed Sargent previously, who always scores against Watford, so we enjoy him on the 2nd of January. He'll probably score a hatful. But was also Pookie. But I was looking at it and thinking, well, is Pookie getting on? Where's the freshness coming in? Where's the next player who's going to, where is the next Buendia? Where is the next Maddison? That kind of thing. And I hadn't really seen it from any of the bits that I'd seen. And in terms of the actual football, it's Dean Smith's side. It felt fairly attritional. Isn't fair. It was all organised, and then we hope it felt improvised at the top end. Didn't feel like there are patterns of play, there are runs, there is movement. It just felt like, as with Sargent, he hit an absolute rocket against us, and it just felt like it came down to that rather than to something organisational. I don't know if that's fair, because obviously, you tell me, but that's been my certain thoughts on Norwich City this season.
Yeah, that's very much been the story of the season. Just that one little bit of quality from a quality player like Josh Sargent's kind of made the difference in that 6 winning game streak. That we're winning games by 1 goal. He was the little bit of quality that we needed just to sort of pip championship teams that maybe we had the better quality across the pitch against. On this game, then obviously 2nd of January, there's a couple of games ahead of this one. Obviously, we're recording this just before Christmas, so worth noting that. How's the feeling coming down to Carrow Road? You guys love a trip down here. You've won 6 of the last 7 meetings between the two sides, so you must be feeling fairly positive. What's your thoughts on the game ahead of this one?
Go on, Justin. You can go first.
Yeah, thank you. I think it depends on how we get on in the next couple of matches, because obviously at the time of recording there's another 2 matches before we play you, so there could be some injuries, there could be who knows, and we should be probably starting our new midfielder Kone against you, because he should be eligible to play on that game. So, speaking as I am at the moment, our defence seems to be fairly good. I think it's 6 clean sheets in the last 8, which is pretty good. That's good to hear. Sometimes I think we do lack a little bit of something going forward. The Huddersfield game the other day, I'm not being disrespectful to Huddersfield, but they're bottom of the league, and we did make it look a little bit like a bit of a struggle to sort of beat them 2-0. It did happen, but I don't think the referee help matters, but let's not go into that. So I'm confident coming up to you, actually, which is, as you said, not particularly like me after last time. So, yeah, I think we might get a win, but let's see. Let's get these next 2 games out of the way first before we start worrying about that.
Would you agree with that, Pete?
I said earlier on, I think of us as comparable sized clubs, and I appreciate you've got a bigger catchment area than we have because we're on the edge of London, so there are obvious differences. But I think what normally seems to me to happen an awful lot is we come to Carrow Road and get a win, you come to Vicarage Road and get a win, and of course this time it's gone the other way. I'd go for something like a 1-1 or a 2-2 draw. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we both have reasonable Christmas periods, if we get into there that hope that we're basically we're only about a point or so away from each other at this moment in time. I think it's just important that we kind of stay up there. So I see it as one of the harder games that's coming, but we shall see. We are also, though, that team where you mentioned about a little bit of a spark, a moment from a player to open up. That's what we have because we've got Sarr, so he can do that. When he doesn't give you that moment, then it's that frustration that you're going through at the moment as well. And the same thing with João Pedro. The difference is you get an absolute shift from João Pedro, and that's why we absolutely hope he's going to be with us till the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you guys to nail a prediction into the channel. Everyone's going to hear it, so want to hear you guys' thoughts. Put you on the spot. Score prediction. Are you feeling festive and positive? This is obviously the new year, so it could be a first win. Is that going to be the case, Justin?
Yes, I think it will. But because I don't have to wait for everybody else to give a prediction this time, and it doesn't matter if we all do the same, I'm going to go for 1-0 Watford, mainly because we are winning games, but not by huge margins. Let's go for a 1-0.
I'll go for a 1-1. I think Pookie always ends up opening us up in some way, shape, or form. He has got such good movement that he normally makes one of our centre backs look like a piece of cheese. and I wouldn't be at all surprised if that. And you don't lose that because you've gone past your 30s and some. He's one of these guys who's forever alive and alert to what's going on. If we could nick one player from the Championship, I'd probably go and have Pookie, because the one thing we need is a dead-eyed poacher that we can present opportunities to, and will give good movement to get that kind of extra yard in the box. That's the one thing we lack.
And hopefully, to round off, Norwich fans can go over to your Twitter spaces after the game and listen to a Norwich City win and all the Watford fans ranting. So with that, I'm going to get you guys to plug your channel and your podcast where everyone can go and find you.
Yeah, you can find us pretty much anywhere. We are on Spotify, and we are on Apple, and we're everywhere. It's at DNSYE _podcast on Twitter and on TikTok and on YouTube and just about everywhere else. So yeah, we're quite easy to find. If you do want to come and jump in on our space after the match, everyone's welcome. We're not we do have opposition fans on. We treat everybody with respect. There's no boisterousness. It's all very, very cordial. Occasionally we get an idiot on and we sort of deal with them accordingly, but it's very rare. So if any Norwich fans do want to jump in after the match, just hover around our space, our Twitter, probably about 10 minutes after the final whistle, because I won't be going, so I can run it up from home. And we just have a chat about the match, and yeah, feel free to jump on.
Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate your time.
Excellent.
Thank you, Adam. Cheers, guys. Have a good Christmas.
Yep, and that will round off this week's Terrace Talk. Yep, it's going to be Blackburn in the Cup up next after this one, so keep it locked up for across the Pinker channels for that one. But fingers crossed, it's going to be a festive win for Norwich City. Another one start off the year in a positive way, because we could really, really do with it, couldn't we, guys? So with that, we'll round off the show. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you for the next one.